I also took software development here in Copenhagen, but very soft kind of content. Yeah.
My name is Zuhair. I come from Syria. I studied information system engineering, faculty of software applications development when I was in Syria. I worked for many years as a freelance web developer using PHP, and here I'm here to learn how to implement single-page applications, websites, instead of the online school, in order to get a job.
Excellent.
My name is Ibrahim. I'm also a computer engineer. I graduated in 2001. I was in Syria managing quality department and also mentoring computer assistant engineer institute. I'm old-fashioned programming. I was working in Visual Basic and MySQL and Excel. But the world is going in web application. I'm starting to.
So you didn't do any web application development
I'm
before?
to learn ASP.NET and what is related.
Okay.
I like Microsoft, but yeah,
So you were doing some ASP before Hack Your Future,
no.
or just like alongside with this?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, sure.
And the bad situation.
Huh?
Bad situation happened in
Yeah, okay.
country.
Yeah.
And I find in future it's a good chance to learn.
Cool.
I'm here. I've been around as in finding projects for some time. I work as a consultant. These days, my interests are in machine learning, AI, and I function as a Scrum Master on my team. So, if any of you have any questions about Scrum and what that means, you can ask me. And I'm getting more interested in the software side of things with programming. So how to capture requirements and processes and stuff. So I spent a year functioning as a Scrum Master now. So I'm pretty new-wise in it. So, but if you're new to the concepts as I am, then I can explain it on that level. Yeah.
I'm Mohammed Mushir Rahman. So I am learning here from Hack Your Future. I have a little bit idea about JavaScript and HTML, CSS.
Hi, my name is Krishna Anna, and I'm currently doing internship as a front-end developer at Web and Coffee, and I'm also like working with Java as a consultant, as a part-time, and yeah, that's right. Yeah, Java.
So that's
Headphones.
yeah. What are you doing there?
It's like UX testing and like managing CMS systems.
Amazing. Yeah.
That's cool.
With React?
No,
What are you using?
like simply HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. It's like mostly like doing like user testing, like user experience and like UI design.
My name is Nir, and I have a little bit of experience before in open source project. I worked with Ruby on Rails, and still I have interest in Ruby, but like Node.js and yeah, React. It's really yeah, no for me. I would have to say. Yeah, and I like Node.js and React as well. And yeah, and I've never used MySQL before, so it's also very interesting to learn.
So did you attend the MySQL classes, or?
Yes, I attended like the last class.
Okay, okay. Yeah, cool. Yeah. But I think most students end up having some holes in the curriculum that needs to be dealt with when we at the final project. And we'll figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah, and I do internship at the moment I started internship. It's basically the front end. So it's in normal, like wire data. It's in Singularity, University,
Amazing.
Zoe. I'm not in the perfect mood now, but I just got a ticket for your information. Currently, I work in Trackman as a front end. Actually, the only front end in my team. Funny fact, just for sharing, my company is probably the exception, and I want to hear if it's true. We have 5 designers, but 3 front ends.
Oh. I think that's an exception, but
But you have designers.
yeah.
So,
Maybe you have like full stack designers, like who can do front end.
but anyways, so I'm also like quite weak at MySQL. Like never really dealt with the database.
Oh.
And the backend, I mean, like we wrote a bit of a product before, but it was kind of, you know, in the back of the head. Didn't touch it since we started like other curriculum. And the past week, we both were struggling on setting this project up, not even writing a single line of code. And I look forward to the real coding.
So,
might
take a while.
so you're struggling with help?
Yeah, kind of. I think a lot of things because we kind of split everything. Like we ejected this React app, and
Okay.
we had to set up the whole local and then production environment. So we had to set it up absolutely different way, and then also like when a development server would work, the remote wouldn't work, and when the remote is working, the development is not working.
Okay.
We
But let's try to find time to discuss that later, so we can finish the round.
43 builds on Terraform. Then you know how much we have.
Okay.
Just note on that create React app. You don't have to eject it.
Yeah, that's like afterwards we figure it out.
I recommend not ejecting it.
Because there's like several ways of doing things, very simple way.
Yeah.
And people tend to complicate things.
Yeah.
So well, I think the reason why we ejected it was Ahmed. He said like we should use concurrently, and then in that case there are some like some path in the encapsulated configuration that needs to be changed. So he ejected it and then changed that part and then added the concurrently, and then the word becomes more complicated.
Yeah,
So
okay.
that's only if you actually want to move where the what's called the entry file is. You could have that in the root source folder, and you wouldn't need to eject.
Okay, but I think we're steering off a completely unrelated track right now. So let's continue with the round.
Hi, my turn. My name is Sayed Chanhan, and before coming to Hack Your Future, I took some courses from Coursera, introductory courses. I have a background in computer science, but it's more on the research side, informatics. So, and beside learning web development, I am also learning Danish.
Cool.
Well, what are your research interests?
Informatics, business intelligence.
Okay. So I can ask you questions about stats and math and stuff.
Yes.
Yeah, great.
Great. Awesome.
Yeah. I'm Abdullah. I have a degree in computer science from DTU, which is the Technical University of Denmark. I've been working at CSE for a year as a developer, and later on I worked for the tax office as an architect, and now I'm working as a developer for the statistic platform.
You said CSE, right? Copenhagen School of Entrepreneurship? Or
CSE?
yeah.
The firma.
Okay.
The company CSE.
Okay, so it's also the it's like a startup incubator thing. It's
it's
CBS.
called DXC.
Okay.
Don't ask me what DX
Okay.
stands for. I don't even know what
Whatever. I was just curious.
Hello, I'm Joe. I'm right now in between educations. I don't actually have that much experience in programming other than Hack Your Future and just a lot of side projects that I don't finish and a lot of reading about code because I think it's incredibly interesting. That's basically it.
So you're in between educations? What educations?
It's because I was what's called KPU, computer science there, but it was too theoretical. Kind of. It wasn't actually applicable to something practical. And I've had a talk with some of the of the guys that already finished their bachelors and was in the process of finishing their masters, and it said you got some practical skill sets, but it wasn't much. So here in Denmark, you have in the first half year of your education, you can change. So I stopped, but I need some
other credits.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, okay,
so I'll take that later.
Yeah.
And so right now, I'm
What was the university?
And what?
Copenhagen.
Copenhagen University.
Yeah, exactly.
And what are you planning to do? Where are you planning to go then?
IT University of Denmark, or DTU.
Yeah.
Cool. Yes.
My name is Mohammed Azizullah. Now I'm studying in Roskilde. So I have also prepared for my semester exam in January. I'm doing now informatics, some software application, and coding. I just learned from Hacker Future. Before though I have also degree computer science in my home country, but I worked in a ISP at a system side, IT technical side. So I have just basic idea now how to code and everything.
Cool. Yep, I guess it's my turn then. I'm Saki, and I've been teaching here since we started basically, so that's like a little more than 1.5 years. A year and 9 months, something like that. And I studied at Copenhagen Business School, where I did business informatics or something like that. It's called in English, business administration and computer science, I think it was actually called. So it's actually not very technical, but I always like gravitated towards like trying to build products, and that caused me to want to learn to build a product myself. So I taught myself web development. Of course, I had like a little bit of background with having classes in Java and stuff like that, but not that much in web development. And for the past 4 years, I've been working at DR, the Danish Radio Broadcasting Corporation, it's actually called in English. I just quit my job. Now I'm starting another job in February, but you can always talk a little more about that.
Is it related to programming, web programming?
Yeah, I'm still a developer. And at DR I've been doing Drupal, I've been doing some PHP, and I've been doing React for the past 2 years or so, and also some Node.js related to that, but I'm very much a generalist. I also like in university I took a lot of classes in UX, which is something that interested me a lot, and of course I also had like a ton of business management related things. So I'm kind of like a little bit of a jack of all trades, and I'm not like very good at like really like remembering the details of how to implement something, because I always get bored halfway through. So I have to Google everything basically, but I can Google stuff in business and design and development and everything really. So yeah, I think that's it.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Please continue.
So I think I already managed to forget at least 60% of your names. Daniel, could I ask you a favor?
Yeah.
Could you find some paper and some pens so we could do like name signs, and then
Name
I'll introduce them to the idea about research prints.
Yeah.
We need to call Kevin.
Is Kevin very good at doing name signs? Or? Okay.
Well, our name tag provider.
You know, there's like I always think about like they're like universal life skills, like things you can learn, and like even if the world goes under and the internet is no more and you can't be a web developer, you still have those kind of skills, and one of those kind of skills is like drawing. I actually really seriously considered taking taking classes in drawing, because that's just like, you can always use drawing.
What kind of drawing?
If you're trapped in a cage somewhere and you need to, where's the...
You mean the sketching?
Yeah, I mean like, if you're trapped in a cage, you can draw a map and you can figure out, okay, you need to figure out that projector there. I don't know if I need to go up there and press something.
Well, where's Marco?
Well, use it.
We abandoned you guys.
What happened?
Traitor.
Du speler du
Name tag.
To put
Ja,
in
hvor
there.
det-
What do you mean?
Så skal du ikke
Slow,
trykke med
make
tre gange
the pen slow around, please.
og samme knap. En gang til. Og du kan ikke komme
One
længere ned,
for
og så
one.
skal du trykke på den modsatte.
Yeah, you can split it maybe.
Let's just do it in half.
Yeah.
Do it in half. Yeah.
Jeg drejede bare ikke hovedet nok til at se det, jo.
There we go.
Hey!
Nothing else to get
Hvor bliver jeg ved med at sige en gang til, en gang til?
Okay, so
Can I have
so unfortunately I wasn't able to be here for the class last time, and as I understand it, we tried to implement this, but it kind of failed a little bit. So you were tasked with building a CRUD application, and that's very good. It's definitely not a waste of time.
Yeah.
But it wasn't quite what we were, at least what I have been planning for the class. The idea is to do something called research bites. We tried it out before with other classes, and I think it can be really, really valuable. So what is the purpose of Research Bite? That is to try to provide us with some sort of information about something we need for this project that we have right here and now. Because, I mean, we've been teaching you JavaScript, HTML, React, and so on. But it's always very generic. It's not like we haven't been teaching you to use one specific API that we need to build a specific application or something like that. And that's what we need to now. Now we have like a specific project at hand. And it's not like us mentors know exactly how to build that project. I mean, like, nobody built this thing before, so nobody knows exactly how to build it. Nobody knows exactly what we need to know in order to build it. So we need to do some research. And I think the most effective way to try to do that research is to try to delegate it. So that's what we're doing with these research bites. The idea is that they are time boxed, so you get a week to try to figure out as much as you possibly can about the topic that you're given. And you're giving individual topics, so that's what I'm saying, it's delegated. So everyone is working on something slightly different. There might be some exceptions where you have two people doing the same thing, but you're supposed to do it individually. You can talk together, but you shouldn't be sitting like just like handing in one submission, because we want to cover as much ground as possible. We want to see you try to focus on one topic and try to find out as much as you possibly can. And then the idea is when we meet next week, you're all going to briefly present what you found out, and we try together to make a decision whether this is a direction we can go to be able to take on the product that we're building. So yeah, it's about figuring out some knowledge that we don't know at the moment. It's time boxed, and you are each individually responsible for doing the research. And really, the rest of the class is also like dependent on you doing that research, because if you don't do it, then we miss out on an opportunity to learn something about something that might be really key to building the product. So it's really, really important that you take the time to try to get as far as possible with this. And we expect to see some prototypes from each of you. So you have to build something small that can maybe we task you with figuring out how an API works. So you need to go out and get an API key. You need to try to make some calls to the API, see what kind of data you could get out of the API. Maybe if it's relevant, you might have to try and set up something where you can check if you can write some data to the API as well. But you're not expected to cover everything, but as much as you can within a week. That's the idea. Yeah, and the goal today is to try to get all of you started with like individual research bikes. And we have been doing quite a lot of work trying to figure out exactly what it is we want you to research. The problem is we don't like fully know the project beforehand either. So it's really difficult to figure out what it is you don't know, right? What you don't know, you don't know. It's like, so there could be some of these things that are just like you do the research for a week and then you come back and we find out, oh, I'm sorry, it's actually not relevant for the project. Yeah.
Last week you were not here, but Daniel showed us something that we are supposed to build.
Yeah.
So are we going to make the same thing or we are changing?
So that CRUD application was one of the research bikes. So we're taking it out this time because you already done that.
No, I don't think it means that. You're talking about the wireframes or the
No, you
high
showed the project which Amsterdam, HYF Amsterdam made.
Yeah.
So
I will show you the project that we're going to build.
So we are not going to make that thing.
It's
not
going to be
exactly
close to
the
it.
Amsterdam one, but I'll show you what we're going to build. Yeah. But yeah, we try to cover a lot of different topics, and hopefully this is the stuff that we need to actually be able to build the final project. But there's a pretty high likelihood that we meet next week and we figure out, okay, so this stuff didn't work, but we found out that we need something else. So we might end up having to do another research bike for some of these things, and other things we might not end up having to do it. But the basic idea is we try to spend this week right now doing research sprints, and you will be working individually on this. Again, you are of course allowed to speak with each other. You're actually encouraged to try to speak with each other and get some feedback on everything, but we have like one person, one responsibility. That's the idea right now. And then when we feel that we have researched enough, we put you together in the teams, and then you can start implementing the projects. And you're of course supposed to and allowed to use all the stuff that someone else found out in their research bike. So it's not like someone do a research bike and then they kind of like own that and it's only their group who can use it. Of course, it's not like that. And you're of course expected also when you have done that research bike, you are kind of like the master of that topic. So expect people to come and ask you about authentication if you were the one who did like the research bike on authentication. So definitely do the research. Make sure you know quite a bit, of course, about it. Of course, people are also allowed to come to us as mentors to ask about these things, but we want to try to kind of like establish the knowledge in you rather than in us. So that's the purpose of doing these bikes. And I can say as a little bit of background, we do it very much at work. The situation where we do these research bikes is, I don't know how much you know about Scrum, but in Scrum you usually have a grooming session. In the grooming session, you sit together with the people who are going to build this stuff, usually the developers, maybe designers are present as well. And then you sit together and you have like brief discussion, figuring out, okay, so what tasks do we need to do in order to finish this thing? And when you figure out what tasks you need to do, then you try to estimate it. But quite often we figure out that, oh, so this thing, we might need this, but we might need this, and maybe we need this. And then we realize that there's a lot of uncertainty related to solving this task. So we can't really estimate it because we don't know if we're going to use that library or we're going to build something ourselves, or whether we can actually ask someone else in the organization to go and build this stuff because it's actually their responsibility, or something completely different. In that situation, when we have a task in grooming that we cannot estimate, we are not going to put it into our sprint. The sprint is the stuff that we're going to do for the next 2 weeks. In our case, we have 2 week sprints. So the sprint is the stuff we're going to do for the next 2 weeks. We're not going to put it into the sprint if we cannot estimate it. But what we can do is we can put a research spike into the sprint. And that research spike, we say that we can spend, say, 2 days working on that spike. And when we've been working for 2 days, then we need to have some more knowledge at that point in time, and then hopefully we can estimate it and put it into the sprint after. But we don't put stuff into the sprint that we don't have an estimate on. That's the key point. And that's also the idea here, because if we just like ask you to go out and do a lot of stuff that we don't have any idea what actually is, then we don't know how big is this project actually. We have very bad circumstances for trying to scope the project, because after we do all this research, we also have to figure out how much of the project can we actually do. So the project I'm going to show you today, you're probably not going to build everything. I hope we can continue on with this project because it's a cool project. We're probably going to hand off some of it to the next final class. But I would be super excited if you could do almost everything. That would be so awesome because it's a really cool product. So.
Yeah.
What do you mean by spike?
A spike, that's just like normally a spike, you know, on a graph, it's like it spikes. So I think it's
Topic.
no, it's more like you just like you run really fast for a short amount of time. It's actually a little bit like a sprint, but a sprint is something else in Scrum. So maybe it's why it's called.
Fluctuating.
Well, the point is that I don't think you should think too much about the word spike. But the point is, we give you this amount of time, and then run as fast as you possibly can. Go and try some things out. Fail, figure out you need to do something else. Fail, figure out you need to do something else. Fail, oh, you're out of time. That's it. It's a sprint. It's like a short. You're running, right? So you need to, before the time runs out, you need to come up with something useful, right? That's the point of a research spike. And I mean, that's maybe also really relevant because I tried to describe these tasks. Maybe I should get on to showing the task. But I tried to describe these things, and I gave you some criteria some questions you need to answer after this. But I don't know if these questions are the right questions. So we need to also have some dialogue during the week. If you figure out, oh, this is very irrelevant for the project, then we need to talk and figure out if you need to research something else.
Just some notes here about the words.
Yeah, like screens.
So a sprint, it means different things to different people. Within the Scrum terminology, in Scrum, it means that you have a given amount of time where you agree upon what should be done within that sprint. It's called it is a sprint goal. So there's a list of tasks that you need to do during that time period. So that's a sprint. We have 2 ways of working. So there's a Scrum and there's ASAP. So the truth is that's a different thing.
So do we consider it as one of the introductory part of the SDLC, Systems Development Life Cycle, this sprinting?
The sprinting, well,
because when we start any project, we do some requirement gathering and then we make some prototypes.
yes, so requirement gathering is a good thing to do. So that's agreeing upon what should be done. So having an idea of what to do. So when are we done? That's a good thing to know before starting this one.
Yeah. Personally, I actually don't like the word sprint. Because when you're working in a software team, you have a 2-week sprint. And here you agree on this is all the work that we're going to do. And then after that, you have a 2-week sprint. And then after that, you have a 2-week sprint. But the sprint kind of implies that you run as fast as you possibly can. And if you're running as fast as you possibly can every single sprint, which is every day, each day in the year, you're gonna get exhausted, right? So I think this word is maybe not the best word because that's hopefully not how it works in reality. In reality, it's actually more about like being able to commit, being able to say this is how much work we know we can finish within the next 2 weeks. And that's usually, knowing that we can finish it doesn't imply that you have to sprint in order to finish it. It means that you can actually sustain it for a very long time. It's more like a marathon, really. But the point about a sprint is that it's a terminology for a bundle of work. You have like 2 weeks and you have to finish some work and you commit to this is how much work we can finish in 2 weeks. But everyone calls it sprints. So it's not like you can like reinvent that term. The idea was not to try to teach you Scrum today. I'm just taking like a topic that I'm that we're using at work in a Scrum context that I think works really, really well, and that's research spikes. And I hope you understand the point. We want to find some new knowledge. We only give you limited time to figure out the things you need to know. And this is an individual task. So I think we should get on to showing you what we're actually going to build.
Yeah.
Are you just happy or?
There's a question over there.
Yeah.
Can we start recording?
I have already started recording. And thank you for asking. And please continue asking like regularly for each and every class because we will forget. This is kind of like a high-level sketch of what we're going to build. And maybe we start with like the really high-level stuff. You can see there is something about students, mentors, and administrators. And I will in a second. So, what is the task that we need to solve here? Maybe actually, I don't want you to share with us right now. I want you to think a little bit about solution. Now we are just in pictures instead. I just want a blank page.
Even worse.
Okay, so the stuff that we want to build, or the problem that we want to solve, is there's of course a few different problems. We're building a product for Hack Your Future, okay? And the first problem we want to solve is that whenever Christopher or Marie are like setting up new classes, they need to figure out what mentors can we have who teach these classes. And that can be quite a bit of a puzzle because like different mentors have different skills and different mentors have different availabilities. They're all like, we all here voluntarily, so we of course like have like lives full of busy things, and maybe people have exams or they have like a big deployment at work or something like that. So we need to build something that can help Christopher and Marie schedule these things so we can figure out like assigning the right mentors. That's from the administrative side of things. That's something we need. Then there's from the student side of things. We want to have like something where we have an easy overview of what classes are you supposed to attend as a student. So when you sign up with Hack Your Future, you just get a link, go into this product, and then you can kind of like see an overview of the classes that you have, and you can easily find your way to the descriptions of the classes, to the homework, and so on. The idea is still all the content is going to be on GitHub. This is just going to be a place where you can have like your calendar and links to seeing all those descriptions in one place. And we also plan to have like a link for the Slack channel, so you can get straight to the Slack channel. So it's kind of like the one-stop shop for Hack Your Future. So if you sign in here, you can figure out that Slack channel that you forgot how to access. You can figure out when are you going to be at the next module. You can figure out who's teaching the next module. That's also something like every time I come here, people are asking, "Oh, are you teaching me today?" And I usually have to tell, "No, sorry, I'm teaching another class." Yeah. Are there any other questions? That's from the students, and of course from the mentors' point of view, it's a little bit like the students. Mentors want to know what classes they have agreed to teach. So that's something you would be able to see in there. And I think in general the mentors should be able to see a little more than the students. So they probably cover any more than one class. Maybe they want to see when is the next React course coming up, when is the next something else coming up. And then the final thing that I'm thinking about, which is maybe not absolutely crucial, but would also be very nice, is to have like a entry point for all the events that are going on. So tonight we have the Christmas lunch, and sometimes there's like maybe the homework day at Zendesk or whatever it's called. All these kind of things. Try to have that in there. it's still the idea, or I mean, yeah. No, let's have a look at what I've been drawing out. So,
I have a question.
yeah.
How do they manage now? Like all this stuff?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Danny, do you have the Google Docs thing? And can we show them that? I don't think it's confidential or anything like that.
No.
It's probably a good idea to show that one.
Probably maybe a Google Sheet.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's not like.
We do have a Google Doc for like seeing all the
Yeah.
classes and who is teaching, and then you submit the homework there. But then later on, the ones maintaining.
Should I just send you the link?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because when I joined first time, I really had a hard time understanding how do I submit a homework, for example.
To understand what?
Submit homework and then
Yeah.
how, like,
Okay, yeah. For submitting homework, actually Benjamin did like an entire video about submitting and stuff like that. But
But there was like in GitHub, like, oh, you put in.
yeah, but he did that for the last class that just started now, because that's something that's been a problem since forever.
Yeah, absolutely.
The idea right now is not to make this platform a place to submit homework. But I definitely had that in the back of my mind that maybe one day it can be like that. Yeah, so this is the tool that they're using right now. So you can see that we have like all the mentors out here. And we have like the different classes that are scheduled. And then you can see like Rohit, I don't know if the dates up here,
Yeah.
7th of January, right?
Yeah, it's this Sunday. Yeah.
So Rohit is teaching Node for like 5 consecutive modules, and then he's teaching React. And I'm assigned to the final projects. Apparently the HTML, I didn't even know that. Yeah.
It's last year's.
Huh?
Yeah, it's last year's.
That's last year. Yeah, probably, yeah.
It's in the beginning,
Okay,
yeah.
so, but you can see it's pretty confusing. You can't really see the availability of mentors. Christopher, he has to like write the mentors individually and be like, oh, can you teach how's your availability these dates? And if I already told him, he's probably going to forget, and then he's going to write me again. You can't directly see what can the different teachers, what can they actually teach, because it's not like all mentors can teach everything. So those are some of the things that we kind of that we want to solve. That's like this. This is really the scheduling thing. That's how we're doing it today. We want to build something that works better than this. And then there's the other side of these things, and that's providing more like a one-stop shop for the students. Because right now, new students, they have to figure out what is the link to the GitHub repository, and they always end up in the wrong repository. Especially now that we have one repository for the description of the class and all the homework and stuff like that, and then a separate repository where they hand in their homework. That's like it's getting confused all the time. So that's the point here. There's a lot of information when you start as a student. Let's try to put that together in one place. And now I think we can zoom in a little bit. So let's start with what the student sees. So this is the view over here. And as you can see, this is just a wireframe design. So there's not really a design on it yet. I think I will be supplying you with a design if I can manage to do it quick enough. But this definitely shows you, this should give you an idea what HTML markup you need to be able to present, and give you an idea what data you need to have in your database, and so on and so on. Yep.
Is that mobile first, or is that just on the website?
I'm not really sure if we need to support mobile for this, because at least, or I think there's some, yes, we do need to support mobile for some things, because for instance, the student view here is most likely something where students are going to pull out their phone and where's the class this time? Like, you're like looking at maybe finding a different location than KPH, for instance. So if we're going to be in a different location, then students need to be able to go in here and press on the module and see where we're going to be. And that's the kind of stuff you want to have on a mobile. But all the scheduling stuff that Christopher and Marie is doing, I don't necessarily think that needs to be supported on mobile. It would be awesome if we can build it like that, so if we can do it fully mobile first, that would be absolutely awesome. But I mean, like, I try to make this design in a way that it can generally work on mobile, but I think when we get to the administrative view, once we have to get all the details in place, there's a lot of work related to that, and it's not the highest priority to get that working. But it's a great question.
To view is not to read the information is nice, right?
Yeah.
To have it on your mobile.
Exactly.
And when we presented mobile first, it was for you guys to practice. It's not really a requirement because, like Zaki said,
I mean, some companies, they insist on doing everything mobile first.
Yeah,
but I think there's also some rhyme and reason to it. I mean, in some cases, it does take more time to develop for both mobile and for desktop. And in some cases, you already from the beginning, you know that it's very unlikely to be used on
The
mobile.
reason I'm asking is because it
looks very mobile.
Yeah. But actually, it could also just be like a browser window zoomed out. So, but in general, you shouldn't worry too much about exactly what it looks. This is just a wireframe. It's a very rough idea. This might change quite a lot. We might change the order of everything. We might change the layout. We might not even have icons down there. That's just like an idea. It's already getting a little bit concrete with the icons. But it's not necessarily sure that we're going to do it that way. This should just give you a high-level idea of the stuff we're building. How is it going to work?
Here are some clues for what files you need to construct and what components you need to construct.
Yeah.
So what you've been doing last week is constructing a mentor list. So what you're seeing here is a view that will contain a mentor list.
Yeah, not quite, but you will see a view in a minute that will contain a mentor list.
Okay.
Actually, I guess there's a mentor list. If there are more mentors in here, there will be a list of icons for mentors, because these guys down there are mentors.
I hope you understand the construct of including a component from a view. So that's what I'm trying to say.
And there's plenty of lists in this view. It's just mentor list is not the most prominent one. But that's not so important. So let me just briefly explain what's going on here. So up here, of course, you can see that you're signed in as a student. You'll have like a picture up there. Right now we're discussing different options in terms of authentication. So maybe if you're using something like Google or GitHub authentication, that will just take your avatar, the image, from your GitHub or Google account. But we probably also need to make some sort of like profile page, and I haven't drawn this on these drawings right now because I'm not really sure what we need to have in there. But you definitely need to have some sort of way to sign in to the application, because this application relies very much on things where we need to know who you are. Of course, a logo, and then there's a link to the Slack chat. And in this case, it assumes that you're a student and you're enrolled in a class. So based on the Slack channel that we link to, we can kind of like conclude that you are enrolled in the class 09, okay? Here we have kind of like a calendar view. Notice that the calendar view is only dealing with week numbers. It's not, because if we had to have like 30 dates along here, then these modules would be incredibly long and you wouldn't have an overview. And we only have classes on Sundays, right? And that's something you need to keep in mind, because we need you to research some calendar modules, and we need to be able to do something like that. And I think most calendar modules are focused more like showing you the exact date and the exact time on the date and stuff like that. But that's just something to keep in the back of your head. And then down here we have like a list of events, and the idea is just to keep them like as a list here. And then there's something interesting here, because there's an export button, the idea about that is we want to be able to export all this stuff to your calendar. So if you're using a Google Calendar, or maybe we'll figure out getting it to work with Outlook as well. We want to be able to go in, and then in this case, I think this is actually a mentor. I think there's a comment here. Yeah, students only see their own class events and alumni events. So in this case, this will probably be an administrator or a mentor, because this guy is actually able to see 4 different classes. If you're a student, you would only see class 09 up here. So it doesn't make much sense to, yeah, I guess you could maybe export only the events. I don't know. But down here we have like events. That would be like Christmas lunch. Alumni events is like, if you're alumni, there might be like some events that are like more difficult. I think they should be visible to everyone, but it should be clear that it's alumni events, because if you're still attending the program and you come to an alumni event, it might be pretty difficult, and there might not be so much time to answer basic questions, because it's designed for people who graduated, right? And then mentor events, because as mentors we have like some get-togethers where we plan the teaching, and maybe we also drink some beers or something like that. And we don't want those to be visible for the students. That's like top secret. So that's the exporting functionality. And here I just like detail this one a little more. So we have a mentor view. The main difference is that you can see more than one class here. You can see class 09, 10, and 11. That's because this mentor is assigned to teach 3 different classes, so you can see more classes. Or no, actually I think you can see, yeah, that's the point up here. He can see all classes, and then he can go in and he can check the classes that he's teaching. Actually, you can say my classes, so that's the classes that he's teaching, and then it would automatically figure out, let's say he's teaching 9 and 11. So it automatically check 9 and 11 based on that. Those are the ones that he are assigned to. But if he wants to figure out something about class 10, he can still go in there and he can see the information. So basically, the mentors can see all calendars. The students can see the calendar that they are assigned to, the module that they assign to themselves. And of course, I don't know about the Slack chat thing. I guess that's also based, I guess this one, so that would be also hooked up to the selector here. So if you are seeing 9, 10, and 11, you will see the links to the Slack chats for 9, 10, and 11. And if you only select my classes, so you're seeing 9 and 11, then you see Slack links for 9 and 11. I didn't really think that through. We added this Slack link later, so I edited through all the views. You can also see down here that there are a mentor events afterward beers that's visible here, and it's not visible over here. But even though this is a normal student, you can see that they can still see that there's an alumni event here. That was what I talked about before. That alumni events are still visible to everyone, but it's labeled so you know that you can join if you really want, but it might be a little too difficult. Okay, yeah, and then of course if you click on one of the modules here, so these are the modules again. If you imagine now we're a student, these are the modules that you're currently assigned to. Maybe I should just look at my display and talk your direction instead of. These are the modules that you're currently assigned to, and you can see a little icon that shows who is the mentor on this class, and there might be more mentors as well. But if you want to have like more detailed information, you can of course click on that module, and then you have more detailed information here. So you can see the title of the module, the class, because you know JavaScript 1 is taught many times. So we need to know that this is the JavaScript module that you are joining, not like the class 10 JavaScript 1. And then you can see the dates where it's being taught and the time slots that's being taught. And you can read the description. The idea is that we pull the description directly from GitHub. So if mentors are editing the description on GitHub, it will automatically be updated in the application here. but we also have a link so you can go directly to GitHub. Maybe you need to, maybe there's another fork, or like in general you want to be using GitHub. So but this is just like a shorthand so you can quickly see what's going on in GitHub. And I think maybe there should also be linked directly to the homework and the readings. I think that's definitely part of it as well. Let's just I'll add that in later. Yeah. Questions so far? Yeah, okay, so you got one. Is this meant as a single page application? Like everything is one page, no routes or anything, just one? Yeah, right. I draw this one as a completely separate view. I think this is actually, yeah, I think it will be kind of like a popover when you press this one, and then you can close it again. But we'll figure out the details of the design later. It's not super important right now. Right. Cool. Let's get on with the admin view then. So if you're an administrator, you see roughly the same as the mentor. You have the selector, so you can choose what classes you want to see. And the main addition is that you have the ability to add new content and edit content. So you can add a class here, and you can add an event, and you can add a mentor as well. And here is an example. I haven't done all of the sketches for all of these, but I did the add edit module. Here it says class. Oh, that's, yeah, here's the add module, because you know a class has modules, right? So I didn't do any of the big buttons here, but I did do the small one here which says add module. So if you have a class already, JavaScript class 09, and you want to add a module, then and I think all these fields are like editable, so it's kind of like something like sort of like this. Maybe make it a little more tight. I imagine something like this, and you can press edit, and then you get the ability to, you probably can't edit the class because that's what you can, yeah, but I'll make sure that that I add the more details.
You can't edit everything in this view.
No, because for instance, the description comes from GitHub, so you can't edit that one. But maybe the administrator still needs to assign a link. I need to think a little more about that. But the main part that I wanted to show you with this sketch is how we take care of scheduling. That was the stuff that we saw in the Google Docs document before, right? So the idea is that you supply some dates for this event, a start date and an end date. And it knows that we are teaching on Sundays. So we're only dealing with week numbers here. And here the idea was you can kind of like drag the ends of this thing, and then the dates will update. So we kind of like snap to the next week, and then it will be like 28th of January 2019. I know somewhere else in the sketch I wrote 2018. I don't remember where it was. Okay, so you set the start and the end dates. And then down here you can search for mentors based on the skills that are needed for this class. So in this case it's JavaScript. I think maybe the skills need to be like JavaScript 1, 2, 3 based on the modules that we have. So it's a little more granular than just this guy can teach JavaScript in general. But here we're searching for JavaScript, and then we get a result of 3 mentors. You can see that the first mentor here, Mia Michelle, she's busy with exams, and you can see that this one lines up with the time where she's busy. So she's unavailable, so we cannot press the assign mentor button in her case. But you can see she does know JavaScript. This is the skills. I think we need to have a label up here or something like that to show that this is the skills. The second result, Joe Johnson, he also knows JavaScript, and he does have some things in his calendar. So he's actually teaching the JavaScript 2. You can see this one. So we're teaching JavaScript 2. I think I wanted to, let's say this is JavaScript 3.
Yeah, but this is class 10. That's class 9.
Yeah, I mean, when you're doing stuff like that, it's so difficult to get everything consistent. Oh yeah, you're right.
So that's the reason why I can't.
Yeah, sure. It's a different class. Yeah, I see what you mean now. Yeah, but still, I mean, class 10 wouldn't have JavaScript. Yeah, actually, they might have it right after. Okay, yeah. Okay, so it was
also have a
exactly. So the point is, and this one should be class 9 because this guy is assigned. Okay, let me just explain it again from Joe Johnson. So Joe Johnson is, you can see that he's busy, but it's not in the first 3 weeks where we're teaching the current one that we're looking for. It's going to be from week 4 and onwards. He's also teaching JavaScript 2, but this is for class 10. And right now we're trying to figure out who can teach class 9 in JavaScript 2, okay? So this guy, we could assign this guy, and it says unavailable. Yeah, so this guy is available for being assigned to the class. And you can do that by pressing assign mentor. And down here we have another guy who, Kale Collars, he doesn't have anything in his calendar. We already did press assign mentor. And what happens is that it says pending mentor confirmation. So I don't know if we'll be able to build this feature because it's a little bit complicated. We have to figure out what we can do with the Google API. But the idea is that this should send a calendar invitee to that mentor, and he would have to accept that calendar invitee before his status will update and he will be like assigned. That's the idea here. Maybe we'll have to start out just having like an assign unassign button, and then Christopher has to be like typing on Slack to the mentor and be like, yeah, okay, so is it okay that I assign you to this in this class? And then the mentor says, yeah, that's okay, and then he presses assign, and then that's it. But it would be really cool if we could make sure that it gets into the mentor's calendar and he approves it, so he sees it in his calendar and he has the time set aside before it's even in the application that he's set to teach these things. So we'll see how far we can get with the APIs that we have available. So that was the notes that I was writing out here. Sending calendar invitees automatically, so that's when you press assign mentor. And then the states that a mentor can have, that they can be like unassigned, or they can be pending, so you press the assign button but they didn't respond yet, or they can be assigned, so they did respond, that they can teach. Yeah.
Where do they get notification, and how do they?
The mentors?
Yeah.
So if you send a calendar invitee, they will get an email, and it will pop up in their calendar, provided that they're using Google Calendar. But I think when you set this up, you can also set it to work with Outlook. So I think if you just use Outlook or Google Calendar, it should be able to pop up in their calendar. But that's some of the stuff that we need to research now. That's why we have the research sprint. So we need to figure out exactly what we can do.
One question. Yeah. Is it possible that if you assign one mentor a certain amount of days, and he can decline also? That
yeah, so he can decline. Yeah, actually, maybe we should have a state for that.
Schedule changes. He has the option to decline.
Yeah, of course. So if he says decline in his calendar, in Google Calendar, did all of you try to get like calendar invitees in either Google Calendar or Outlook?
Yeah. It says like yes or no. You have to.
Exactly. You have to approve it. Let me just.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think you can say maybe as well. That would be kind of a mess.
Later on, you can again click on it and decline if you want.
You can see I'm really terrible at actually accepting all of my invitees. But here's an invitee that I'm invited for. and I get an email. So this one, there's also something in my email that says that I was invited here. And then up here I can say respond with comments. And actually, this is the accept button, this is the decline button, this is the maybe button.
Maybe.
Yeah. And I think Outlook is super annoying because you have to choose whether you want to, with or without comments, or not send a response. But that's just Outlook.
I've never seen Outlook.
Okay.
Always
Yeah.
reply yes with a response.
But you can do the same on Mac. You have it in iCal, the built-in calendar. You can do it in the Google Calendar web interface. Outlook also has a web interface. And there's probably some other solutions. There's just Google and Microsoft for this. Yeah. Okay, so I wrote some small comments here and there. So this one here will be kind of like an autocomplete search. So you type Java and it suggests JavaScript. Will probably be JavaScript 1, 2, 3, and so on, and you can select the one. You know how this kind of thing works. For some of the projects, we had to have like a sort of like a search framework, something like Elasticsearch. Yeah, exactly. Elasticsearch is something similar. As far as I can see, we don't have much search functionality in here except for this kind of like filter search thing, and it's just some terms that we already know. It's JavaScript 1, 2, 3, bam, 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 so and so on. So I don't think we need to deal with anything like that. But we still have plenty of work with figuring out integrating some different APIs, because we are going to try to we have to orchestrate quite a lot of technology to build this product. It is quite ambitious, but I'm pretty sure you can do it.
2 weeks.
Yeah, 2 weeks. So what's like the official in terms of how many weeks? Because we always end up extending. 6 weeks, yeah.
2 have passed.
One is done already, so we have 5, like 2. No,
Yeah.
1 week is gone, and
Yeah.
today is like second week,
Yeah.
so
4 more.
Yeah. But I
One before
mean,
Christmas and 3 after.
yeah.
One of the things about being a software developer is also the ability to stand up for yourself and say no.
Yeah.
No.
Good job, sorry. You graduated. You learned how to say no. Yeah, I mean, like this is super ambitious, and as I already told you, I don't think we're going to be able to implement everything. And that's why we need to do those research spikes. We need to figure out how much of this is just like crazy difficult and ambitious, and how much of this is actually realistic for us to be able to build. Okay? So.
still one question, but I don't
Yep.
know like, if it makes sense. It's because like it's a whole really big functionality.
It's what? Yeah.
It's really big features, like
Yeah.
a lot of features.
Yeah.
And so we are given individual responsibility to collaborate on in one.
Really good question. So the research spikes are individual, but after the research spikes, we put you back together in groups, and then we have like maybe 4 different implementations of this entire application. But I mean, if someone in a group figure out a really cool way to do something, you're all allowed to kind of like share these things. It's just if we try to put every single of you, if you try to make one big team with all of you, you will be doing hardly anything else than project management. You spend so much time trying to figure out who's doing what, so you'll be slower anyway. So instead, we put you in groups of 2 to 3 people, and then you're going to work in parallel towards building this application, and then you can present the applications towards the end. I don't know, did you see some of the presentations from the previous final classes? So they had like 2, 3, 4 different implementations of this basic same application, and like I really hope that this will be a real application that will run in production. So somehow we have to figure out that we choose one, or we build 2 together, or I'm not exactly sure how we're going to deal with that. We'd also
strip like features from one cool project, right, and put it in another.
Exactly, and I'm thinking, because I don't think it's realistic that you're going to build everything here. So I'm thinking that we're going to hand this over to another final class anyway. So they will be tasked with looking at your terrible code that you wrote the night before the presentation, right?
Yeah, is that not to write any comment, Line comments?
Exactly, yeah. And they will have their task will be try to make this work. So you should consider yourself really fortunate that you get to start a new project from scratch rather than being the class that has to refactor something and make it work. But both cases are very realistic in a real world scenario. I had to do both things many times throughout my career. So
should we present?
Yeah. So just
5 minutes. No.
How do you like the project so far?
Sounds cool.
Yeah.
Hmm?
It's pretty nice. Or actually, can we actually like split the according to the routes? Like for example, like the team can make the student view, and the other can make the.
That's what I thought about.
Yeah, because like that would be more realistic and can work parallelly.
So we don't make like exactly the same, but.
My biggest worry is that you have to integrate these things back together, and usually that takes a lot more time than anyone expects. And then we might end up in a situation that we have 3 groups building 3 different things, and we maybe like assign the last week to build it together, and then we realize that it actually takes 4 weeks to build it together because nobody actually built anything that works together. So, but I mean, like this is the basic idea of doing the research sprints. Hopefully some of these prototypes can be turned into something that we can actually take and put into the project. So you're doing a little bit of this, and hopefully it will not feel like you're repeating everything afterwards, because you are actually taking some of the work during the research spikes. And if we need to do more research spikes, we will do that. And the work that comes out of a research spike is basically available to everyone. Of course, everyone who is using stuff that other people built need to put in a lot of effort to figure out how does it actually work. Because that's like, I mean, like, you don't want to put something in your code that you have absolutely no idea about how it works, what it can do. Yeah.
These research sprints, right? We only have like 4 weeks, right? Like, not including today. Would those last the whole week, or just until it's done and then?
So really good question. So I mean, it would be really awesome if you can do them in less than a week. The idea is that we have time boxed a week, so it should definitely not take more than a week, unless we come together next time and figure out that it's actually worthwhile to do another research sprint. But hopefully, if you can, like in 3 days, you can figure out that, okay, so the stuff that you asked me to research, maybe I already finished it. Maybe I found out that this is great. Can I just like start building now or something like that? Grab a hold of us, and either we'll give you a new research sprint, or we will try to ask you to build it out or make the prototype so all the other groups can plug it straight into the application. Right. There are lots of different things. Don't sit on your hands. I mean, like, time is really precious during this project. So definitely don't sit on your hands. If you have done the task for the next week and you're finished, give us a shout in the Slack channel or whatever way you can get hold of us, and we'll find some work for you. But I think this is I haven't seen this situation happen so far. But I do hope that it will happen. There's a first for everything, yeah. Cool. Yeah, so presenting the...
Yeah, I just want to understand.
But maybe we should take a break first.
So you don't want to send this one to this guy?
Let's take the break and then we just discuss that.
Aren't we on the break? Aren't we on the break? Aren't we on the break? Oh, you mean the other break?
Just the spike.
What's your idea? Presenting the spike, the general spikes?
Take a break now, then we just discuss in the break how we rearrange this, and then we present the spikes.
Yeah, together with the assigned people, right? Yeah. So
On class, we explain all the sprints to everyone, and then we tell who's doing it. Okay, so we take a 10-minute break.
10 minutes.
So 20 minutes to 2. We'll see you again. And we have to try to do the break at 2 as well. So
yes, yeah, it's fine, it's fine.
But just
they were
just to make sure that we can just.
They're already up. That's why I was confused with what you were saying.
Yeah.
I was just mentioning this because I've been exploring it a little bit actually, and this basically integrates all the tools.
Just gonna stop the recording. Remind me to start it again.
Yeah.